So we'll jump into week 10, do our weekly drafting of the top games of week 10. Ashton, It is your turn to have the first pick in our draft. For those that are unfamiliar, basically we're drafting 10 games to watch this week. We just go back and forth drafting games. And yeah, the criteria is basically what games we're most excited to watch. Right. So Ashton, you have the first pick here.
Okay. So an easy one for me at number one, LSU on the road at Alabama. It's in Tuscaloosa and Bryant-Denny. LSU has a fantastic offense. Alabama looks a little old school compared to what we're used to seeing. So not just two great offenses like what we saw in 2019 and 2020. No, this is a little different. So we're going to get Jalen Milroe versus LSU. Blanking Jaden Daniels. Was blanking on his name there. This is going to be a fantastic atmosphere. This is the night game. So CBS gets one night game per year, primetime slot, and they choose Alabama, LSU. They almost always do. Can't wait to watch it. LSU only has one conference loss. If they beat Alabama, they then with the tiebreaker, they're the number one in the West and have the road to Atlanta to play Georgia in the SEC championship. So yeah, huge stakes out there. LSU still sneaky playoff contender right now.
These both kind of feel like half of a team, but those halves are pretty good. Like LSU's offense and Alabama's defense are quite good, and that's going to be a fun matchup to watch. Absolutely.
Correct.
Just in general, you got Brian Kelly against Tommy Rees. Sorry, that's just my Notre Dame fandom.
I wasn't going to bring that up. Hey, Tommy Rees, by the way, has kind of found a little something there.
A little bit.
Like that offense is not fantastic, and they don't have a ton of talent. But man, they're getting every ounce out of that offense. They're doing a ton of pre-snap motion. They're trying as hard as they can to make that thing explosive. I've actually been impressed with the coaching job there.
Yeah. Maybe part of that is just how badly they started, but yeah, definitely figuring it out.
After the South Florida game, everything's on the up for Alabama.
Okay, that puts it to me, and I've got like 4 games on the same tier next, so it's a little hard for me to figure out which one I want. Because it's the last one, I'm going to go and take Bedlam. Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma favored by 6.5.
Yeah.
Coming off kind of a devastating loss to Kansas, while Oklahoma State is on a run right now. They're winning. It's not like they have any like massive wins against great, amazing teams, but they're just beating everyone they come in contact with and doing it impressively. So are we concerned at all that Oklahoma might lose the second week in a row here, Ashton?
We are concerned. Yeah. Those of us, yes, we are concerned. I heard just a conspiracy theory out there. And by the way, I spend too much time on message boards and on Reddit. I'll just go ahead and admit that. Like, I've accepted that. By the way, the get-in price for this game is wildly high.
Oh, I believe it.
The tickets are crazy for Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. But
it drives me nuts that this is the last Bedlam, by the way.
Well,
it's just
I was going to say, what if the Big 12 doesn't want Oklahoma to make it? You know what I'm saying? Because they're the ones leaving. I'm just saying, not that I'm a tinfoil hat guy, but I was on the Oklahoma State Reddit page, and there was some guys on there suggesting like the refs are going to give us some breaks here. Like, we need the breaks in this game, and we're going to get the favorable calls. I thought that was interesting. The Big 12 officials do not want Oklahoma playing in the championship in their last year, on their way out.
Oklahoma, Texas could be it. Well, when they go out.
No, I think that's the fear, is that you have like those two guys playing, and the two big boys playing for the conference championship, and then they leave. You'd rather have Oklahoma State in there. Yeah.
Yep. All right, Ashton, that goes to you for the third pick.
I'm going to stay in the primetime slot. We're going to go 7:30 ABC. Washington travels to LA. They play USC. Washington favored by 3.5 points. Washington. Okay, the over/under for this game, by the way, 76.
Wow,
that's nice. That is a tasty over/under right there. So
is it high enough?
No, I'm serious, dude. That means that like we're not both getting to 40. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think this thing needs to be in the 80s. really good offenses. We get the defending Heisman champ against what we thought was maybe going to be the champ this year for the Heisman with Penix and Caleb Williams from last year. But Washington has slowed down a little in the last couple of weeks. I'm not betting on this game. I'm not. I'm staying away from it, but I will be watching. I think if Washington comes out and blitzes USC, it means that they were just sleepwalking a little bit in between the Oregon USC games, which is logical. Is logical. That probably happens. If they don't, then it means that there's real concerns for Washington. So this is a game of playoff implications. Washington's still 8-0. They're undefeated. They have a shot at the playoff if they run the table. So yeah, I'm watching this game. I think it's really entertaining. You mentioned that there's a bunch of games. There's a lot of quality games this week. This was just one face in the crowd. I think the over-under intrigued me, as well as the small line. Like USC has not been fantastic, but that line is quite small there.
It is. I was about to say, like, it scares me almost. Like, it would make so much more sense if Washington was favored by 8. Yeah. But maybe Vegas knows a little something we don't. I'm not sure what's happening there, but definitely will be on the docket to watch that this weekend for sure. All right, for the next pick, I will go back to the Big 12. I'm going to take Kansas State at Texas. Texas favored by 5.5. This is similar to Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, obviously without the rivalry aspect, but Kansas State, we know, like, they're just always solid. They got this 2 quarterback thing going on right now with Will Howard and Avery Johnson, who is the freshman with all of the speed in the world. And Texas, they have that one loss, but they're still probably in control of their own destiny for the playoff and all that. But wouldn't be shocked at all if we see a really tight game here. And Vegas seems to agree with Texas only being favored by 5.5 at home here.
Yeah, when I saw the line, it was a little suspicious. Now, Quinn Ewers is not going to be playing in this game either.
Right.
That does factor in a little bit. And Texas's offense wasn't. They haven't been clicking for a little bit now. But yeah, losing Ewers definitely didn't help. So, but no, very entertaining game. Kansas State, by the way, also 4-1 in the Big 12, the same as Texas. They both only have that one conference loss. So we talk about, this Texas Oklahoma rematch in the championship game. Not if things don't go well for those two teams this weekend. They could be on the outside looking in if they don't take care of business. Kansas State is kind of they're a sneaky team. They always are, right? Kansas State always going to be underrated. So that takes it to me, my third selection. And since no one has taken it yet, I'll take it. It's a top 15 matchup. We'll take Missouri going to my Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia favored by 16 points. My goodness, that's a lot of points. I don't quite know what to say about it. Vegas is just begging and pleading with you to take Missouri in this game, which means that you should not. It's probably not going to be that close of a game. And I think that's probably why I let it slip all the way down this far. It's a top 15 matchup. There's only one loss combined between Missouri and Georgia right now. Yeah, it's going to be worth your watch. It's going to be entertaining. Any chance Missouri keeps this close?
I mean, there's always that chance, but I guess my theory would be that we've talked a lot about how Georgia hasn't looked great this season.
Yeah,
all the time. Like they haven't been that dominant team that we're used to seeing the last couple of years. But if you look at their schedule, Florida last week, now Missouri, then Ole Miss, then Tennessee. Like you could argue that's the 4 toughest games on their entire schedule. Like, and they're all like, part of me feels like maybe Georgia has been just gearing up for this last stretch. And we saw them dominate Florida. Like, if that switch is actually flipped now, this could be a bit of a pile driving. Like, Missouri is great. Like they're a great story this year, obviously. Good on both sides of the ball. Georgia's different. If Georgia plays to their potential, they will win this game, maybe by 4 touchdowns. Like that is out there for sure.
Missouri off a bye week. I don't know if that helps me at all. Georgia obviously coming off the rivalry game against Florida. you'd figure that, that would favor Missouri, if anything. Yeah.
I think bye weeks are
more on this later. More on this later.
Bye weeks are great to turn 50-50 matchups into 55-45 matchups. And this was a thing, and I say this knowing that Notre Dame lost to Louisville this year, but we had like a 7-year stretch where all the ACC schools would always have a bye before they played Notre Dame. And they would always lose anyway. And finally this year, the ACC just finally said no. And none of them had a bye before playing Notre Dame. And the point is, if there's such a clear difference, the bye really doesn't make a big it's not that big of a differentiator.
I agree.
Just, Georgia's clearly better than Mizzou.
Bye weeks mean way more in the NFL than they do in college.
Sure.
Part of it just due to roster size, and part of it, due to the talent differential between teams. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, for the 6th pick, I'm between two. I'm going to go Notre Dame at Clemson.
I like that. I like that pick.
It's part of me as a Notre Dame fan is just absolutely terrified of this game. I know Notre Dame is clearly they should on paper, they're better than Clemson. Also, this is at Clemson, and Clemson's not going to a big bowl game this year. That's off the table.
Correct.
All they have left to play for is to I mean, sure. Yeah, they got some other good teams left, like South Carolina, North Carolina. I guess you could call them good, whatever. This is the biggest game they got left. If they could upset a top 12 Notre Dame team, that would basically be the same as what Notre Dame did to them last year when they went to South Bend undefeated and Notre Dame beat them. I'm going to have more on this game later, but I think it's going to be a tight matchup. And I'm not surprised that the spread is only Notre Dame -3. And it actually opened up, I think, with Clemson favored by 1 or something like that, which I don't know how to feel about that necessarily. I'm not touching the spread, but I have some other thoughts on this game for sure. What do you think, Ashton?
Not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't, dude. Clemson's disappointed me a lot this year. I mean, I had them as a playoff team, man, for crying out loud. They're 4-4 right now. This is the best case, they're 8-4, and you start making the Texas A&M jokes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's best case for them. They're probably not winning out. So Notre Dame's a better football team. Notre Dame is the better football team. It's at noon. I'd feel better if it was a night game, and because Clemson, that place can get loud. So,
You'd feel better for Clemson if it was a night game.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would feel much better for the upset if Clemson had a night game, but it's at noon. And so, I think Notre Dame should be favored. Notre Dame absolutely should be favored here. I'm surprised it's not more. I would lean on Notre Dame to cover here, I think.
The Notre Dame fan base definitely breathed a collective sigh of relief when we found out it was a noon game.
Yes. I
would say just Notre Dame is better than Clemson, but also there's a very good chance that Notre Dame is not able to score on Clemson. So just keep that in mind.
They're not scoring on you guys either, though.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Ashton, you got the 7th pick here. What are you going?
Okay. The over-under, by the way, for that one, only 45 points.
Right.
Oh, my goodness, it's low. All right. I'm going to go out west. It's the 10 o'clock window, man. Pac-12 after dark. I love it. I stay up almost every Saturday night watching the Pac-12 after dark. It's so much fun. We're going with Oregon State going to Boulder playing Colorado. Oregon State favored by 13 points. The prime effect. You remember when we were talking about that back in week 1 and week 2? Man, that doesn't feel the same anymore. It does not feel the same anymore. They're 1-4 in Pac-12 play, kind of like we all thought. But I actually think that Colorado is, I think the water has found its level. I think Colorado now is, Dion has done a good job. Colorado was awful a year ago. They are competitive. They played with UCLA on Saturday. I think this game will stay fairly close. I think Oregon's a matchup nightmare, though, in the end for Colorado. I'm interested to see it. I think the line is about right. I'm not gonna bet it either way. It's going to be a really good game. It's in a window, kind of all to their own. They just get to be on TV almost all by themselves. It's a fun game. I'm going to watch that one.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Dion kind of almost pulled an Narduzzi last week, like
Saturday
night.
He said the same thing. Said, Dion said like the exact same thing as Narduzzi. It just pretty much like our players on the offensive line suck. And by the way, they do. They really do suck. Colorado's offensive line is so bad. It's a miracle that Shedeur Sanders is still playing. Mm-hmm. Like that dude gets pounded every game.
I think the one mistake Dion made with his roster construction was chasing away all the offensive linemen that the last year's Colorado team had. Not that they were any good, but what he got from the portal is even worse. Their offensive line is garbage.
You think he would have been better just keeping the ones from like that he had when he got there?
Couldn't be worse, and they'd at least have depth.
That's a fair point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, is that kind of goes back to the whole thing when he told like I'm bringing my Louis, like I'm bringing my guys, and
he did not bring Louis on the offensive line.
No. Did he? Sure, he didn't run them off. They just left, right? Like, I mean, he would have probably liked to have had them still there if they were better than what he had anyway, right? Okay, here's the deal. Offensive linemen are the hardest thing to get out of the portal.
Yes.
Like you can get some quarterbacks. They're always in the portal, and some receivers and running backs. Skill positions easiest. The corners, the safeties. Mm-hmm. It's way harder to get interior defensive linemen and any offensive lineman that's really good. Those are just almost impossible to get. So, I mean, good luck to you. But that's something that you need to be building through recruiting. Like high school recruiting still does matter.
If you are a solid G5 school starting offensive lineman and you go to the portal, you're getting offers from big schools. Like it's just very thin in the portal or offensive line.
I was going to say Michigan always seems to be bringing in someone. And I don't think maybe Georgia doesn't really do it, or maybe even Alabama, but Michigan has been consistently bringing in some transfers, and they've won the Joe Moore Award the last 2 years. So
but it's like one a year that's really good. Like you can't build an offensive line out of it.
And I'm saying that they're getting the cream of the crop. Like they took those guys, and now those guys aren't out there because they have them. Like you can't get them because Michigan already did. Yeah,
right. Okay, for the 8th pick, I'm going to go to Texas A&M at Ole Miss. Ole Miss favored by 4.5. This is not a game that anyone will watch because of all the stakes in this game or anything like that. It's a fun matchup, though. This is Texas A&M and Ole Miss. Like, yeah. I mean, it's Jimbo Fisher against Lane Kiffin. I want to watch that, even if it's not one of the most important games of the weekend. Like, I want to find time to watch this game, so I'll take this with the 8th pick.
What was the line on that real quick? Is that 3 points? Do you have that at 3? I have Ole Miss favored by 3 points.
Let me look it up. I had 4.5 written down, but that was from several hours ago.
Okay. I gotcha. Some of those lines are crazy. Is that what are you still seeing that?
Most places are 3. I think I see one place still at 4.5. It just probably hasn't adjusted to the rest of the market yet. But
I gotcha. Yeah. So I'm looking at 3 on my book. That's what I've got. That's what I could get right now. But
that looks like that's the more common line. Yep.
Yeah. That is interesting. That'll be a close game. That, by the way, that means that this is pretty much a pick'em game, like on a neutral site. Mm-hmm. Like we think that A&M Ole Miss is a pick'em game at a neutral site, which I think is crazy. I think that's absolutely wild. Considering that Ole Miss is, I mean, they're 7-1. Like they beat LSU. Ole Miss has a chance to win the SEC still.
Does this feel a little bit like the Clemson Miami game in that like both teams could really use this win?
Maybe a little bit, but I'd say it feels more like Notre Dame Clemson than I think it feels. Yeah, I think it feels more like Notre Dame Clemson. One coach, young guy, overachieving, right, and then the other guy is established and has won national championships and it's falling apart right before his eyes. Like I think that's kind of a pretty good equivalent. By the way, both of them 3-point lines as well. Like we're keeping this one tight. So. Yep. We think that the underdogs are going to come out fighting, is what we think. At least what Vegas seems to think. So I don't know if I agree with that or not. What pick that takes me to
pick number 9? It's your last
number
pick.
9. Let me go with. I'm going to stay with the Pac-12 After Dark. UCLA at Arizona. This is in Tucson. UCLA favored by 2.5, so it's a real close line. You can get into this game for as little as $16. By the way, just fun fact. Fun fact. Yeah. Arizona is a good football team. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Arizona is pretty good. Their quarterback, Noah Fafita, has been excellent. They beat Oregon State last weekend. UCLA is ranked. They are number 20. They are 6-2. These are two good football teams. We'll just go ahead and say it. They're losing some games because this is a really difficult conference. But these are two good football teams. It's at 10:30. It's the late game. This is fantastic. I love this, man. I'm worried we don't get this next year when the Pac-12 goes away.
Yeah.
I love my Pac-12 after dark. I like the 10 o'clock and the 10:30 kicks. I'm gonna watch them while I can. That's kind of my theory.
I'm hoping that like the
Big 12 does
and the
this.
Big 10, like
Yeah,
when the game is at the former Pac-12 school, like you got to have some of that late night action. I really like that.
Do you really think they're going to have Ohio State playing at 10 o'clock Eastern?
No, but when Michigan State goes out there, like maybe
Okay.
they do that.
Yeah,
I guess. I don't know. I guess
I'm
it
disappointed.
still remains to be seen.
Yeah, it's disappointing for me.
It is for sure. Okay, that goes to me with the last pick. And this is one of those weeks where there's just too many games and not enough picks. So some honorable mentions. We got TCU at Texas Tech. We got Arkansas at Florida. How fun is that? Virginia Tech goes to Louisville. That's maybe a little bit sneaky there. Kansas goes to Iowa State. Iowa State is favored by 1.5. I'm not sure what's going on there. Miami goes to NC State. But my pick, speaking of the Pac-12, we're going Arizona State at Utah. Utah favored by 10.5. Arizona State, not good this year, but
no,
they have some
scrappy.
upsets. They're scrappy. And Utah coming off a kind of a devastating loss. We'll see if they can figure out how to get it back up and running. It is at home for Utah, so it does feel like they're probably a pretty safe bet to at least win this game. But I do think it could be tighter longer than they would be comfortable with, for sure.